Welcome into another episode of Everything is Logistics, a podcast for the thinkers in freight. I am your host, Blythe Brumleve, and I'm happy to welcome in Shaylin Dixon. She is the CEO of Scale Logistics, and we're going to be talking about using social media to grow your brokerage business as well as your own personal media brand, which is extremely valuable in today's business world. So, Shay, welcome back into the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. It's been a little while, so I'm definitely looking forward to catching up.
Likewise, for folks who may not know, I back in the, and I say back in the day, literally, I hosted a show called Cyberly that it still appears on FreightWaves, but Shay was my very first guest on that show for FreightWaves. So it's been a long time coming to get her on Everything is Logistics. So when I say welcome back, we've already kind of been having, these chats for a little while now. We've even,
Yes.
before we started hitting, record, we talked for literally 26 minutes before I hit record because we had so much to catch up on. But now it's a really good opportunity to sort of dive into because we both had a little bit of a career change within the last year. And so maybe for folks who don't know your background, give us a little sense of your logistics, sort of career history and what got you to today.
Yeah, most certainly. So I started in the industry about 13 years ago. I worked for a polyethylene foam manufacturer, and that was a really intense, but it's like I learned every basic skill set that I needed for my business now. I didn't know that then, but I worked for a small family owned business and I was doing everything. It was back in the day, so we didn't have technology. I appreciate and value technology so much because it makes my life so much easier now. But I worked for a series of corporations and companies like UNFI and a cold chain storage freight brokerage as well. And really, over the last 13 years, I just have kind of done a little bit of everything. And I've seen, all sides from working in the warehouse to behind the scenes as a freight broker. So a couple years ago, about 3 years ago, we started our first freight brokerage, Allegiant Logistics. And we had that for about 2 years. We separated ways with our business partners. And my husband and I restarted Scale. And I believe our authority went active March of last year. Yes. So we've been
Congratulations.
just like literally a little bit over a year back in business. And it has been nothing short of amazing. And I tell people all the time, like, I am living proof that if you just work really hard and if you're not afraid to count on yourself, bet on your capabilities, that you can make relationships and partnerships that will grow your business tremendously. And that's what I've done. And it's been exciting. It really has. So, there's been so much change since the last time we've talked. So
Girl, yes, because I
crazy.
mean, you just talked about, opening up a business what in the middle of COVID,
Yes.
and then you start up another business kind of on the tail end of COVID. So between those two companies, what did you learn from the first one that helped you launch Scale?
Yeah, so the way that you structure your business from the very beginning is so important.
Mm.
And the way I mean structure, what type of partnership agreements, what type of contracts you have in place, making sure you have an attorney review those, making sure that when you select your bond or whoever is going to hold the bond, that you're selecting that as yourself, especially as a majority owner, especially if you have multiple partners, because whoever has the bond in their name really controls whether the freight brokerage can operate. So that presents challenges when you have partnerships, right?
Mm.
I also learned that not going outside of my niche actually was way, way better for my business. I know some people in sales and freight brokering, there's two opposite sides. One's like, do it all, move it all. And the other side's like, lock in. Well, for me, locking in was really helpful. And I think that I got a little discouraged at the tail end of my first business because volumes were kind of shifting. And so I was getting a lot of other opportunities and bringing on new agents. So we were shifting to, dry van and just, kind of taking more freight. We had purchased trucks during that time. And so we were like, let's get, dry van trailers. Nobody wants to, run a flatbed. So flatbed and hot shot was our specialty from the beginning. And we kind of got away from that. And
Mm.
so when Scale Logistics started, I really took my time and I looked at my old business. I'm like, what did I not like about it? What could I improve? and how can I restructure this? So when I started my brokerage now, Scale Logistics, I made sure that I took every little, I really took my time with it, like like literally baking a cake, like okay, this is what I want, down to the name. Like everyone's like, what's scale? They think scale is like a way, like weighing product, or scaling, like growing your business, but it's actually stands for supply chain and logistics excellence.
Oh,
And that's
wow.
our promise. Like I promise that I'm going to operate with excellence with my carrier and with my customer. And we really thought that out. We thought about what matters to us. We thought about how we want to be different. My husband has been driving for over 13
Mm.
years. So now that he's out of the truck, he brings a completely different aspect to the business, where I'm more sales, customer, that's me, business development. My husband, he's more on the carrier side. He's building those carrier relationships. And because he was a driver, their conversation is really different than what I would have with the
That's super
carrier.
interesting.
It's so different.
Because you're coming from the brokerage standpoint, he's coming from the carrier standpoint, and now it's almost like, your own little like logistics Avengers team.
Exactly. We really are like Batman and Robin. And I tell him all the time, I'm like, I'm so thankful for that perspective, because he's able to help our team, and he's able to deal with issues with the carrier, with all of our carrier partners. And I'm more so because I came from a corporate background and doing account management for a cold chain storage solution. Like they did everything. They had a brokerage. And so I had to learn kind of how to handle like I had cheese customers in the middle of Wisconsin, right? Like I had to make sure those loads got covered. I had to handle, I'm talking about, I fell on the sword a lot,
Hmm.
right? So I had to learn that. So both of us bringing unique experiences. I think that when we transitioned to this, because the two of us were the ones leading it and developing it and coming up with our main principles, we were really able to make it our own and true to who we are as people. And that really helped us build the foundation of our business for sure.
What made you want to stick with aerospace?
So the relationships I've built,
Mm.
honestly, dealing with engineers, because most of the people that we build relationships with are engineers or former engineers. And it's so weird because I really started researching all of this because my daughter kept saying she wanted to work for NASA. I just want to work for NASA. And I'm like, so I started looking up STEM programs, different programs, and then I started getting into aerospace. And I started seeing what all there is in Georgia for aerospace. And I'm like, this is so intriguing, and I just kept diving more into it. And when I went to like visit my customers or walk through their facilities, and people are always like, "What's that like?" They're like, "You record," I'm like, "You can't record in a secure facility," So all I have is those memories internally, and it was really like I knew this was it, like walking through there, seeing all the different parts, learning, fan cows, trans sleeves, thrust reversers, like the different type. When I was still interested, when it got really into the aerospace jargon, like the specific parts, and I had to learn parts, and I still was interested, I'm like, this is for me. I never felt that way about cheese or anything cold storage ever. In fact, when I started the brokerage, I'm like, we can do anything but reefer. I refuse. I'm traumatized.
I feel like if you are talking to folks within aerospace too, you stick out because you do know those phrases. Is that a safe assumption?
Oh, most certainly. And I understand how before I even started prospecting and reaching out, I learned about what are the components, what are MRO facilities, how do these facilities support the aerospace industry. So I went even more sub niched, and not just aerospace, but working with a specific sector of aerospace that does the repair, and they kind of do aftermarket parts.
Hmm.
So it's really along the lines of manufacturing. So I was really, really in depth, but it made it easier for me to connect with those people online and in person. And I can have a realistic conversation because I understand how their business operates, and I understand their needs that are unique, right? And I honestly, I get bid out all the time by like the larger companies that offer the same services, but I, talk to people on a conversational level, not like, hey, send your quote to this general email box. It's like, hey, it's me and my assistant, and we're going to help you. And which part is this again? And I'm like doing research. So they're leveraging my passion and my understanding of their industry when they hire me as an outsourced logistics partner for sure.
And so how does I guess, based on all of your experience
Yeah.
within aerospace and then within logistics, and then you had already started up one freight brokerage, you're starting up another one. It sounds like there was a lot of intentionality with scale logistics and how you're approaching that business. So you've got your niche, and then on the social side of things, how did you start implementing the new social strategy around the new company?
Yeah, so it was a transition. And it's so funny because I have people all the time and they're like, you really were smooth with that transition. We didn't
Seriously.
notice. So, three things really helped me. My branding is very similar. I changed our colors slightly. I took out the orange and replaced it with black and stuck with the blues and whites. So before I transitioned out of Allegiant, I started using those new colors so that people would associate those colors with Allegiant, right? Or with me. Because what people don't understand is that your personal brand is what drives people to your corporate brand and your business, right? So I have always, even when I built Allegiant, I leverage my personal brand. So I did the same during this transition, right? I started talking about changes and, being open to change and what change looks like and how you handle change, right? I started talking about those things that were happening real life for our business, and I just kept reassuring my customers that things were going to be the same level of service, just under a new name. We kept our agents. So I kept a lot of the same customer relationships despite challenges, and they just kind of were like, hey, we don't care what name you do it under. Are you still going to be our point of contact? That's really what it came down to. So I made sure that the branding was consistent. And I also kind of made sure that I was talking about the change and kind of explaining and alluding to it before I actually announced it. And then once I announced it, I hit the ground running, promoting and representing our values and what we stand for with scale and who we are as leadership and who we are as ownership. And it really worked really well. My customers responded well to it, and so did just people in our space, right? They never discredited me like, oh, you had a failed brokerage. I'm like, no, I pivoted, I changed, and I learned a lot from the experience. And I always tell people that they're like, did it fail? I'm like, no, we just decided to go separate ways, and that's okay. You don't have to hold on to a business. You just revamp it, and that's what I did.
Right. It still, it doesn't necessarily, and I think for a lot of folks, and I put myself in this bucket too. Like sometimes it's really hard to separate yourself from the business,
Yeah.
and the business almost feels very personal. It's like your baby that you've seen sort of
Yeah.
grow up,
Yeah.
and to have even to hire somebody else to come in and care as much as you do, or to sell it off to somebody else, you would just hope that they would treat it that with the same care and attention that you have. And I would imagine that you have taken all of those learnings and all of that sort of appreciation for all of the lessons that you learned with one business, and now it's full speed ahead at scale with all of the things that you have learned and are continuing to learn.
Most certainly. Most certainly.
And so,
Those learning experiences, they are better teachers than anything you read, anything someone tells you. Just dealing with it firsthand and having to do it with class and do it with a smile, because that's what it is. Like, we have to still show up regardless of the challenges that are going on. So I learned
and
a lot.
so with building on social media, so you went through this process of kind of hinting to it, and then it was an announcement, and then now that you're now that that's done, what does sort of the, I guess, your social media strategy look like? Are you planning on a quarterly basis, a monthly basis? Give me those, I guess, sort of in the trenches details of how you're approaching social media now.
Yeah, so I actually do it on a monthly basis. I just look at the month and I'm like, what events do I have? I have a basic calendar and I'm just writing in there like, this day I'm going to talk about this. I try to keep the flow of the week. I start off motivational, I try to educate, share something industry related, educate some more, and then I wrap up for the weekend and keep it light, because on Friday I'm not trying to learn anything and most of us aren't. We're just like where are you going this weekend? What plans do you have? And I don't post on the weekends on LinkedIn, but I do, and sometimes I do if I feel led. Most of my content, like my assistant, I'll gather and she'll pre-schedule and like a third party tool like later. And that's it. I have like a list and I tell everybody, you know, planning in advance is half of the battle and then actually executing on it. We talked about that earlier. Like execution is the challenge for me. So I have a plan. I have like 90 days of typical content. And a lot of my consulting clients, I'll give them like 90 days of prompts. I'm like, here's 90 things you can talk about for the next 90 days. You can pick anything, a video, article, photo, anything to go with it, and just put your thoughts. That's it. Just start there, right? So I try to make it more personalized. Sometimes I go really in depth, and then other times I'm not. It really depends on what my goal is for that quarter. So, like right now, we're about to transition into adding new sales agents. So, I'm going to be talking about a lot about sales and team building and things that, are centered around that. LinkedIn strategy is way different than Facebook and Instagram, and people try to share content to all three platforms without adjusting it to the room, right? Like you have to read the room in each area, and you can't do that. So finding that soft spot. I have a very diverse audience. So I have like manufacturers, suppliers, prospects, C-suite owners, small businesses, people who are interested in getting in logistics, other businesses that are just, trying to learn about logistics that are interested in maybe doing business, like small package, stuff like that. So my audience is really unique. So being able to talk to all of them in every post doesn't happen. So I try to talk to the carrier one day, customer one day, my peers one day, so that I'm still engaging every aspect of my audience on LinkedIn.
And so, for the audience sake, kind of break down. So, I guess the consulting is different than your responsibilities at scale. Correct? With the consulting, you're consulting what other kind of businesses? Is like solopreneurs? Is it other logistics companies? Kind of give us a window into that.
Yeah, so I'm consulting actually through Scale. I'm just a consultant for our business. So what happened was I noticed that a lot of customers needed help with other things besides just their freight, right? And I am a value added girl. I understand that the more value you bring, the less they go to other people. And then I become their source, their one stop shop for everything. So whether it's SEO or them needing a Google My Business profile, I'm helping my customers with education. Like some of them wanted to start their own business. I'm like, hey, let me guide you through that. Like I'm pretty much helping people. And that's why I really don't advertise the consulting because most of it's like referral based. And I normally have, I'm full of them. I'm like, okay, I can help you with that. I can help you with that. So I do a little bit of everything through our business. 90% of the people that I assist are logistics companies. I really work a lot with solopreneurs, so small fleet owners, maybe 20 trucks or less, 5 to 20 trucks. That's where they start getting into a place where they want to build direct shipper, direct distributor, direct export, direct import relationships. So they need to elevate their marketing for that. They need to elevate their marketing materials, their branding materials. So I get a lot of that. So I do a little bit of it all. But for me, what the core of what I do is try to help other small business owners with the things that I had challenges with. I felt like there wasn't like a playbook when I first started, like, this is what you do. Make your Google profile, make your Instagram, then make your LinkedIn. So I try to educate people on that so that they can stand out. A lot of people go straight to getting their DBE or their MBE or their minority certification, right? Women or minority owned businesses. And that's amazing. But no one can promote, advocate, or, share your business better than you. And I think a lot of times we skip over that and we're like, oh, we'll just leverage these other things instead of doing the scary thing of presenting yourself to the world. So,
I love that, and I love that you hit the nail on the head with that because I know that historically, associations and things like that have had a strong place in a lot of business. But now we have, I say now, and social media has been around for, more than a decade.
forever.
But for a
Yeah.
lot of these companies, social media is still very new to them. And so being able to leverage both is almost like a superpower. So when you're coaching them through, what steps to take as far as, establishing a social media presence and then maybe kicking it up a notch, what are some of those, I guess, challenges that they're facing?
I think a lot of time it's lack of clarity. So they really don't know what they offer as a business. They don't have a unique selling proposition. They really don't know where they add value. And I always tell people before we even start, I need you to communicate to me what you do, who you serve, who's your target audience, how are you assisting them, how are you connecting with them outside of social, because it's not just social, it's social plus cold calling, plus going to events, plus networking. It's literally like a pie, and you have to really kind of do 25% everything. You might be able to get a little bit more with social, but you still have to put these efforts in. And I think lack of clarity about what they actually can offer as a service provider. I think the next thing is fear of rejection, fear of showing up online, maybe not knowing what to say or feeling, unsure. And those go hand in hand. The clearer you are about what you offer, the easier it is to show up online. So most of what I do is I'm trying to help people figure out, what do you actually want to do? Who do you actually want to serve? And then once we have that, it's a lot easier for them. They're like, oh, so I just talk about this? Yes, just talk about it. Oh, so I just connect with these people? Yes, connect with those people. And you will see yourself stand out. I think there's 17,000 licensed freight brokers and 1,000 more, freight broker agents, and even 1,000 more double brokers. So your competition, the pool of logistics providers is vast. You have to stand out. You have to. That's it.
100%. And when it comes to social media, it's one thing, I think, to tell people that this is the extreme value that you can have and that you can get to and that you can work towards. But I think a lot of people fall off in the working towards it part, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
they know that it's important, and then they start, and then the first handful of posts, maybe even 10, 20 posts, they hear crickets, and then they get discouraged, and then they just stop and they don't pick it back up again. But I would make an argument that that's when you should absolutely sort of double down and keep going, because your audience is either not right for you that's viewing that content, or you're not making the best post possible. And I know that we kind of talked, before we started recording, about how do you level up your game on LinkedIn or your game on social media. So how are you, I guess, kind of thinking about that process of leveling up when it comes to social media?
So for me, I'm always just like making sure I prospect and qualify every person I talk to,
Hmm.
right? I'm like, is there any way we can work together? I'm asking questions because I want to understand what they do so I can see, is there anything that I can offer to you or share as a resource? And is there anything that I can, gather or gain in return, right? I'm always updating my LinkedIn profile from my skill sets to as I get into a sub niche, I'm getting more specific about making sure I'm including that in my content strategy. I think that a lot of people, like you said, they're stopping if they don't get traction right away. Every time I stop posting, sometimes I'll go like a week and I just won't post because I just don't have it in me. I have like a
Mhm.
new customer I've onboarded, like, I'm training a sales team, just something, and I'm like, or I want a new direction with my content, and when I start back posting for like the first week, it's, maybe it's very limited engagement, maybe five, people interacting, like very, very minor. And as I continue to show up, people will continue to engage. That's just how it works. And people give up too easily. I understand the process that people who are, we talked about it, before, but it's like dating when you're prospecting on the internet. So you have to treat your content marketing strategy the same way. Like you're going in, you just want the people that are in your community to know you. You want them to like you and you want them to trust you. So if you stick to content, and I ask myself, I'm like, is this going to help someone know me, like me, or trust me? And if you say that before you post something, then you're good to go. If you're like, yeah, they'll know me better, yeah, they'll like me better, or they'll trust. And that's a huge part. And I could go on for days about like no trust, but
I love that approach because I've posted about that before. That it's called the KLT method, like or know, like, trust. And if you, it's something like 70, 20, 10.
Yeah.
So the 70% of the information that you're sharing is knowledge based, and then 20% is like based. So what do you like? What do you enjoy? And then the 10% is that trust, that vulnerability, that I've been in these shoes before. I've had the experience. And so if you kind of think of like 10 posts on LinkedIn that you're going to create, 7 of them should be in the knowledge category. 2 of them should be in the, what, KLT,
Like,
the
yeah.
learn,
Yeah. And then
like or
trust.
learn, and then
Yeah.
trust. And so that's how you can think about, and especially with LinkedIn, thinking about it from like a month perspective.
Yeah.
If you say, okay, well, we have 4 weeks, we have 30 days. If I have at least one post a week, I can now go to LinkedIn and I can schedule those posts in advance. So then that way, when shit does it inevitably hit the fan
Exactly.
during that month,
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about, I
Exactly.
got to post to LinkedIn today and I haven't
Yeah.
done it. And then you lose that momentum that you've built, that content snowball effect. So I could seriously, same boat. I could talk about this for hours.
Literally. And I tell people you don't have to post every day. Sometimes I only post 3 times out the week. I don't post every single day. You're not required to post every day. And don't just post just to post. Like
Hmm.
people know when you're just sharing, just, you know, make it of value.
Yes.
Make it have a purpose and always have like an intended person that you're trying to land that message to, right? Instead of just putting out general content. I think that really helps. So
And you said something earlier too that I think brings this part of the conversation full circle, is that you're constantly tweeting or tweaking.
tweaking, tweaking. Nope,
I don't know if you're
not
tweeting,
tweaking.
but you're constantly tweaking your LinkedIn profile, which is important because if you do start gaining traction, maybe you commented on somebody else's
Right.
post, or
Yeah.
or maybe one of your posts is doing fairly well. The first thing that people are going to do is they're going to click on your profile and see who you are and who you're talking to. And if your profile doesn't speak to that audience, then you're missing out on a conversion for that person to see your profile and know, hey, I want to connect with this person. Hey, I want to follow this person, or hey, I want to reach out and do business with this person. So constantly, tweaking your profile in order to appeal to your target audience is another really hidden gem. What other, I guess, sort of, I remember when we had talked on Cyberly that you were using social media to also prospect carriers. Is that still
Most certainly.
an active
Most certainly.
strategy? Yeah.
Yes, I prospect carriers all the time. Now it's my husband doing it more than me. But in those LinkedIn groups, I'm going to every LinkedIn group. I'm trying to connect with people in the group, whether it's I'm learning about different markets or, we get a lot of requests for like air cargo and warehousing. So that those are areas that we're expanding into over the next year. And so I'm connecting with people who do that already. I'm learning from them. I'm reading and engaging with the content, seeing what type of trade shows they go to, because that's a hot topic. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, link, your social strategy, what you do at trade shows and how you market your business is that they're all coupled together with the cold calling, because people cold call and they're like, I called 400 people and no one gave me an opportunity. I'm like, okay, but what else did you do? What did you do before you cold called? What did you do before you even asked someone for the business? So I think there's multiple steps and strategies that people can leverage to really build their business on LinkedIn. There's multiple. I'm telling you, the commodity related groups or the industry related groups, they are like they're so valuable when it comes to getting industry related information. I'm on LinkedIn scrolling, not because I'm looking for what people are, where people are at. I'm on LinkedIn trying to connect with people and learn from them.
So
100.
and back to intentionality. So you're and that's another thing that I hear a lot of. Even I experience myself is sometimes you'll be on social media and a couple hours will go by and you won't even realize it. But if you're
Watch.
going there with intentionality, then you're less likely to get sort of sucked into the algorithm and then not find anything of value. Now you had also just mentioned implementing a conference strategy along with your social strategy. So I guess, conference season, it feels like conference season is always a
It has
thing
not
now.
ended actually.
I know. I was like, I don't know when it starts. I don't know when it ends. I just feel like I'm always in the tornado of conference season. So give us a sense on the conferences that you prioritize, and then we can get into a little bit of how you tackle and strategize to actually go to the conference.
Yeah, so I tell everyone and I do it myself. I am very, very particular about conferences I go to.
Mm,
I love the idea of networking with our peers. I love the idea of networking with carriers. So whether it's MATs or, but before you go to a conference, you have to figure out what are your goals that quarter, that month, and that conference has to align with it, right? So right now I have carriers covering all my lanes, right? So I don't need to, and I have carriers like beating down you have any freight? I'm like, I'm sorry, like we're completely
mm,
covered. So right now, I don't need to go to somewhere like Matt's because I'm not looking to build other carrier relationships. Now, if I wanted to go to network with industry peers and things of that nature, that would be fine. But I can do that effectively on social media. And where I'm at with my business, I need to save my time so I can use it to, invest back in the business and into my team. Maybe when I have like an ops manager and other people are running the day to day and I don't have my own book of business, doing that would be fine and it would be beneficial to my business. But you have to be really specific and
mhm,
intentional with the different conferences and trade shows you go to, and they have to be specific towards your goal. So find that, determine what your goal is first and then find them. For me, I'm doing anything aviation related, anything aerospace related. I am in the building. I want to know every single person that operates in this space, who my competitors are. What are they doing that the customers like, right? I am
mhm.
not a recreate the wheel type of gal. I'm like, what's working for other people? I need to figure out how to do that for myself in our business. So be intentional. I tell people the best place to start is start in your region and with your commodity type. If you don't have a commodity type, you have bigger things that you need to figure out. Like what commodities are you going to focus on?
Yeah, don't pay the thousands of dollars to go to a conference until you know that core structure of your business looks like.
Right. So, and people will spend $1,500 to go to a conference and leave with nothing, a bunch of business cards that they really don't know what to do next,
Mm.
instead of, investing in coaching, mentorship to build the foundation. So when they go into that trade show, they know exactly how to leverage it. I'm talking about, I have a plan. My husband's like, where's your clipboard? And I'm going to bring my clipboard. I'm going to have it.
Oh, it's a real clipboard.
Yes, I have
What's
a
on the
clipboard.
clipboard?
I have a clipboard. Well, I always actually print out like the map of the expo hall so that I can highlight prospects, and I put my prospects warm so that I've connected with someone at the company, I've had relationships, some type of conversation, some type of like engagement from them, that they're interested in engaging and doing business with us. They just maybe don't like or trust me yet. They just know
Mhm.
who we are. So I have to build the like and trust. Cool. I can do that. That's the easiest. So I make those green because that's money. I'm like, go. So we split it up, especially when you have like 1,000, say 900 vendors. You're not going to be able to touch all of those people intentionally in one day. So I'm looking at the map and I'm like, okay, we're going to do the left side the first day, middle section. We got to hit these. I know what booths my prospects are at. I am reaching out to the customer in advance, trying to find somebody in sales that may be there so I can introduce myself and ask, who in your company actually handles onboarding new vendors. I'll try to connect with them online as well. And then when I'm there, I'm getting a picture with the person from that company so I can post it. And I'm like, I'm with John. He is great. I'm really hoping that we can do business. Or I'm sending it to the lead, the prospect who's actually the person in charge. And I'm like, look, I met John at the sales event. He told me wonderful things. Our core values align. I would love to be able to service you and get set up as a vendor partner. That's my conversation. I'm never
Mm.
like, I can handle your freight. I've got capacity. I'm just not that person. So I have to have a strategy before I go. It's all
So
a bigger plan.
okay. I want to I want to dive a little deeper into this because I'm going to be taking notes and re-listening back to this conversation. So when you walk up to them, so you know them, you've got them highlighted, you know who you're talking about, you already know a little bit of the backstory. What are you saying? Like as you walk up and talk to them, is it's not it's probably not the dating comparison that we mentioned before, where like the guy
Yeah.
just like shows up and says, I'm going to take you out. You have no other choice. I imagine it's probably a little bit easier of a conversation to have.
So it's more like valet, right? When you go up to a valet, you don't know this person and you're trusting to give them your keys to your car, right? And the only reason you're trusting them and giving them the keys to your car is because you know the business, you know the establishment, and the establishment has already allowed them to do the valet. So, right? So there's a trust there, and you're just allowing it to go. So when I'm coming up to them, I am introducing myself and I'm just saying, hey, I connected with so and so online. If I was unable to connect with someone, which that happens, sometimes they just don't respond, or a lot of my customers are like, I'm in the warehouse. I don't have time to go on LinkedIn. Call me on my cell phone, text me. They're like sending quotes via text, like, hey, every customer is different. That's why I
Mhm.
tell them tailored services, because I tailor my approach to the type of customer and to how their sales team operate. If it's just one person who does sales, sometimes they have huge sales teams. Depends on what state it's in. There's so many variables that change. But one thing is consistent. I have something to talk about. I have something to say. So whether it's like, I just saw that you guys joined a 10-person group that is now making this component for, these new, biodegradable, whatever it is, I'm coming with that information.
Hmm.
They'll be like, yeah, we just did, this is this new part, this new whatever. I have shown that I care enough about the company. I've done my due diligence. I'm coming prepared. I'm serious. I'm not here just for a photo op, but I do want a photo op. Um, and let's have a conversation. And then after we have that, we start talking. And then once I have the opportunity to showcase that I know the industry, all bets are off. Then it's like, shit, oh, when you're in New York, you have to come and, and then blah, 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 blah. And then I'm like, well, let me get your information so we can catch up. And I'm going to share that article with you. I always find something of value to them that I can share with them later, whether it's a company that may be able to help them from a technology standpoint, because I read a lot about technology. So I have other software and tools. I'm like, have you guys considered leveraging this? I'll send you information about it later, right? Something so minor, but is very significant. And now I've stood out. They're
Hmm.
like, do you remember that girl? Yeah. She was talking about the aerospace and she already knew about our company. And yeah, oh no. And then they go back to the office and Liz in marketing, who I've already connected with on LinkedIn, is like, did you meet Shay? It flows. And now I have multiple people that when I reach out to the logistics manager or the procurement person or the salesperson, and I'm like, talk to Susan. She'll be able to tell you, more about us. And he talks to her. Susan is inside the company sponsoring and advocating for me as a business owner.
Hmm.
So now I have other people talking for me. I don't have to say, and I'm the trust, they're the credibility, right? So it works out. It's full circle. But it doesn't always happen in a day. Sometimes it takes a year, right? Or I'll see them at another event, or Susan will move to a new company and she'll be like, Shay, I'm working at so and so. Remember you talked about.
Yes.
So relationships, be
Especially in this
intentional.
kind of job market where folks are if I mean, especially with like a sort of the worker revolution, we kind of
Yeah.
are not really experiencing that right now, but the freedom of movement from job to job is something that we get to experience, unlike maybe past generations, like my parents, for example, where they were in one job for 40 years. That just
Yeah.
doesn't exist anymore. So developing those relationships on a personal basis, that person moves to another company, guess what? That's a new opportunity that just
I'm in
opened up for you.
there. I'm in there. It's so exciting. I love when people get promoted, especially freight forwarders. They
Mm.
get promoted from within a lot more. So I'm meeting and working with like clerks, right? And they're, just clerks. But, 3 years ago, they were just clerks. And now they're operations of imports and exports for the Southeast region. And I'm like, you remember when I helped you get that truck at the 11th hour? You couldn't, you had no money into it. I made no money on it. And I was okay with that for this relationship. And I phone call a friend. So I love having that. I love looking back and looking at a conversation on LinkedIn. And I connected with someone in 2020. We had a funny conversation in 2021. And then now it's 2023. And I go to prospect someone at an event and he's sitting at the table. And, we already have an established, he's like, Shaylin Dixon, And I'm like, hey, this worked out. So those seeds you plant and water over time are really where you grow the business the most, honestly.
Well said. And so okay, so we talked about the pre-conference planning. We talked
Yes.
about being at the event. So what I've, let me, you tell me if this is the wrong way of thinking, or maybe adjust it a little bit. Cause what I did at my last conference that I went to is I scheduled an additional 2 days of the out of office reminder, or email
Yeah.
alert. And I did that only because I wanted to be able to catch up on all of the conversations that I had at the conference so then I can reestablish those conversations now that everybody's back in the office. So I purposely extended the 2 day out of office just so I could reconnect with other people. So what does, I guess, is that along the same lines of like how you plan the post conference follow up, or do
Almost
you make,
certainly.
a little bit of adjustments?
No, I get about a day, sometimes a half a day, and I'm like mass emailing everybody like, "Hey, do you remember me?" But I don't send like a cheesy, "It was so nice to meet you at this conference." I'm like, "Hey, John, I love those shoes that you had on. You remember me? I had awesome shoes too. We had the same color blue shoes." Whatever I connected with them on, I'm reminding them of that and just letting myself be known. And then I'm giving them something, I'm sharing something, inspiring, encouraging something. I always give them something, but I always ask for something in return, whether it's an
Hmm.
email, a contact name, just anything. I'm asking for something in return. And because you've built the rapport, they will give it to you. And because you followed up right after while it was fresh in their mind, they're more willing to do it. When you do it like a week or two later, people are like, I'm on to the next thing. Should have
Mm.
caught me a little bit sooner. Or
And
they'll
how,
leave you on red.
I imagine you're keeping, do you have like a CRM that you're keeping
Yes.
tabs on all these notes on how you connected with people? Because that would probably, like, my OCD brain is already like starting to filter out the notes app on my phone of how I would keep track of all of these people and the things that we talked about.
No, it definitely, we use Close CRM
Hmm.
and I use them for everything. Email marketing, you can just have your strategies in there. My team keeps their leads, and our team is unique because we can all see each other's leads. And the reason that is because we don't want to step on anyone's toes. So you put it in there first, it's yours.
Yeah.
So it kind of also adds a little level of competition, even with me and them, because I like to keep my, sales skills sharpened. So, but no, I use my CRM and I'm putting everything in there and I track everything based off of that. And I update it while I'm on the phone. Uh, I have my email connected, so any emails in and out go through the CRM. It'll go through the CRM as well and archive in my inbox. So it helps me stay a little bit on point and respond because some people just like to talk.
Hmm.
They want to give you the business, but they want to talk to you first. So that's a challenge for me because I grew up north. Everyone's very transactional, and that's how logistics kind of is. It's like you move a load, you do this. It's less relationship. So the small talk is something I definitely learned to master living in the South because honey child, everybody wants to have a conversation. They want to have tea and talk and converse. So
Who are
it's
you?
true.
Yes. I'm
Now, if you
just
want to
doing
talk
a
about
deep sigh because
football,
I'm thinking about all the meeting requests that I have in my inbox right now. And I'm just like, I want to get to you. I do.
I do,
But
but I
I
just don't
know.
want to talk a long time. Now, if you want to talk about football, that's a little bit different. You can call me and talk about football. We can talk about my team all day, especially because we're doing a little bit better than in recent years. So, I'm it's a joy for me. Maybe not so much, other years. So,
And for folks who may not know, she's a big time Eagles fan. And so we kind of had a good moment beforehand because coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, my favorite football team, has the Super Bowl winning head coach, or former Super Bowl winning head coach of the
former,
Eagles, and,
yeah,
and
former
Doug Peterson. And so I still attest that we deserve him after all the years of, just
trials
bottom of
and
the
hardships.
barrel,
Listen, I will say
drafted number one.
you guys are just some diehard fans like us. We lost for years. Same thing with our basketball team, and I've just always been a fan. I'm loyal.
Yeah.
I'm loyal. I'm like,
It's
as
like
long
they
as it's
got
not the
me.
Cowboys, I'm okay. I can talk to anybody. As soon as they say I'm a Cowboys fan, I'm like, oh. I have a
That's
customer.
it.
I'm like, look, we don't even need to talk. It gets intense.
Do
It
you
gets
charge the
intense.
Cowboys fans a little bit more?
Um, I um, I have a disdain for Cowboy fans, and I sit on the customer satisfaction board with my factoring company with the gentleman who is on the like he's a cowboy lover, and that was his background. And I immediately messaged him on LinkedIn. I'm like, take that down. Like, why are you letting people know this is your team? People are automatically going to judge you, but they're from the great state of Texas, so it's
Yeah,
cool.
it's like, okay, well, if you're a Cowboys fan and you actually live in Texas, then
I
that's a
understand.
given.
I
Yeah.
understand. But if you
Right.
don't live in Texas and you're a Cowboys, or you didn't grow up in Texas, there's no excuse. There's no excuse.
That's
I'm
it.
sure I'm going to get some inbox messages about this. Like, oh, you're hitting on the Cowboys? Yes.
I love that because I've seriously thought about if I would ever do business for a Titans fan, and I don't know
Mm,
that I would. And I know that that comes from a very bitter place.
it does. It's deep
But it
rooted.
is what it is. It's
You
not
know
that
your truth
I would do them wrong. I would just be very upfront, I think, in the initial conversations that, look, this is just not going to work for us.
at all. But post conference, I will say, taking the time to follow up, normally only get maybe like 10% of people I give my business cards to actually follow up.
Oh, wow.
People don't follow up, they just
Mm.
don't. So I stand out already because I'm like, hey, it's me again. And they're like, hey. And I'm like, hey, happy Friday. I'm sharing articles with them about their company. I'm like, wow, your business is killing it. And I share it with them. And then they're like, ooh, I can share this. And now they have content to share. So now I'm adding value as well. So I'm just trying to, be in these logistics streets, adding value as much as I can and, helping as many businesses as I can. So,
And so with all of, the intentionality with, relaunching the business and where you're choosing to focus and your social media and your content strategy, it kind of all comes full circle when you can attribute value to that. So what does ROI look like from those different approaches that you've taken?
yeah, so from a LinkedIn standpoint, I've met so many amazing people. And a lot of times, if I don't have a seat at the table or if I'm not in the room, those people are advocating or sponsoring me, right? So they're saying, hey, I'm a packaging company, but I have a freight brokerage that's a small woman owned company that could totally handle this. She's sitting at the table with another woman owned company, and they're like, I'm working with these large freight brokers, and they're not treating the carriers right. And, we're getting sued because like half of the loads were double brokered, what can we do? And she's like, hey, I have a solution. And, so building those relationships goes hand in hand with building the business. Um, all the way. And the ROI has been, not only am I making an impact, but I'm making income. And I don't work for anybody. I work from home. As you can see, I'm in my home office. I have an office that I meet my team for training, or conferences, but everything else, I'm right here at home in the comfort of my own home, business up front, sweatpants at the bottom, it just
Girl, same. I'm wearing sweatpants right now.
it works. And that's my lifestyle. That's where I operate the best. That's where I strategize the best. Being able to go on site, that flexibility. So the ROI for me has been business growth, money, right? But I've made a lot of impact, and I've been able to help a lot of small businesses and large businesses, and that's really. I feel like I'm changing how people feel about freight brokers. And even though I'm only one person, and even though I can't change everyone's opinion, I'm still showing carriers that there are some freight brokers out there that will partner with you and be an actual partner. And I'm showing customers that, like, there's people that are transparent and that are going to do good business and that can follow through and have no problems being proactive and solution oriented. And I'm going to deliver every time, but that's just because that's who I am, right? I don't accept it if I can't deliver on it. So the ROI is vast, and it's not just money. It's beyond that. It's fulfilling.
And I think too with the conversation I guess always kind of comes back to money, especially for
Always.
a lot of
Always.
the social media people, or they're
Right.
working at like a freight brokerage, and they go to the boss with the things, with everything that maybe we've talked about in this conversation. The boss is going to be the first one to say, well, what's the ROI on all of this? It's like, well, whatever the intentionality is and how long you stay consistent with it,
Right.
because there you could throw up a blanket, sort of, happy Mother's Day from, this XYZ
Right.
logistics company. But what other per value? What is that KLT method that we've been talking about? The know, like, and trust. What other content are you making to help people develop a deeper connection with you, so you aren't just another number in their CRM, so you aren't just another email in their email inbox? And so, as we kind of sort of, I guess, bring it full circle, I would imagine that you are bringing in, so much attention, but then there's also that challenge of, and we kind of talked about this before the show started, about how do you say no? How do you say no to the opportunities that aren't a good fit for you or your business?
Yeah, I tell them I really appreciate the opportunity, but I have a partner that may be able to assist you.
Hmm.
And I refer them to someone else, and I refer them to another broker I know or someone that can assist them. I stay like all the way in my niche because that's just where I have found the most ease, right? And I'm not the freight broker that's like, oh, I want to, I'm trying to do this. I'm going to be a, billion-dollar company. I want to provide value and get in where I fit in. And I'm okay with not maybe being in every space or in every opportunity. And sometimes it's hard because you want the money.
Yeah.
You want the money. But I every single time I have accepted an opportunity that was not in my niche, it was life changing. It reminded me why I wanted to stick with my niche. From lumber, Christmas trees. Oh, I remember lumber, Christmas trees. Oh my gosh, I can't even begin to just explain like poinsettias, small, any type of manual labor required. I learned that those type of opportunities are not for me or my carrier base because I've developed what I would call the creme de la creme of carriers. So my carriers, they have very high standards because they operate at a high standard, right? They invest in their business, and so they're expecting a lot from me and from my customers. So I'm constantly qualifying, okay? That's how I'm able to say no because every person I talk to, I'm qualifying them to see if I'm a good fit for them and if they're a good fit for me. And if we're not, I don't say no. I just say not me. I have somebody else for you
I
though.
love that. I'm going to go back and listen to this conversation, write down all of these notes. That was brilliantly put. So you had mentioned a few times, your love of technology and how it helped you, sort of early days in your career and how it helps you now. I'm curious if you've tried any of the different AI tools or anything like that.
Yeah. So I've used AI just for email marketing to our carriers, just to keep them engaged. I don't do compliance. I've never, so a lot of things that are specific to the carrier that they need to know about compliance and things of that nature, I have not the slightest clue, but ChatGPT does. So I'm reaching out, I'm using that to leverage its knowledge to share with my carriers because I like to add value to them as well, and refer them to different places or educate them on different things going on. So it's helped me with that. And I, dibble dabble every now and again with writing press releases and things for small business owners. So I'll leverage ChatGPT just to get a general idea of what I want to say and then kind of change it completely in my own words. But it at least gives me a flow, right?
Yes.
So I use it more to help me outline, brainstorm, a place to start, and then I build from that. So it's helped a
Yes.
lot for
It
sure.
it is so challenging, and I think for a lot of business owners out there that are trying to think, it kind of goes back to our earlier topic about when you have to publish a social media, but what the hell do you publish
Yeah,
about? And ChatGPT can help you get from staring at the blank screen of what the hell
right.
you want to talk about to getting that post actually published. It might not write the whole thing for you, and it probably shouldn't, but
No.
it's one of those things where the ideation, the research, it can help get the brain flowing a little bit so that it can make the process of getting from blank screen to publish so much faster. That's really where it's helped me a ton.
Yeah, I've actually learned to be really specific with it. So I'm like, write the social media post in a Black woman millennial voice that's professional from the Southeast. Like I And it will, and it will write it with it. I'm like, I have to take out some of the y'alls, um, and clean it
I
up
was
a
about
bit.
to ask, what is
Right?
it adding in extra for all the demographics?
It's like y'all, and some of the slang is off. I'm like, I would never say that. So of course I always tweak it. But I'm like first person, conversational, educational. So I use it to I'm revamping our training manuals. So it's helping me with that just to get the verbiage
Mm.
proper. And then I actually just started using something called Sensi, and
Ooh.
that's my first time using it. And it makes the videos, so you can give it text and it makes videos. So I'm going to use that for some of my onboarding, so that I don't have, because I'm a perfectionist. So I'm like recording this over and over. I'm like, and welcome to it. I'm like, I could just put this in AI and AI will, do it for me. So yes, I love AI. I think it's good. And people are worried that it's going to like make our jobs obsolete. No, I think people are going to be able to leverage it to maybe route plan or some, meticulous, mundane jobs that people don't want to do anyways. So I see it as a good thing. I don't see it as a bad thing at all.
100%. And I've been asking a lot of different leaders that come on the show. I have had ChatGPT write out a bio about them or their company just to kind of test to see how accurate it is on the freight industry. Now it only goes up to 2021, I think, is ChatGPT 4
Yeah,
of the limits of its knowledge base, unless you have access to plugins, which is a whole other different discussion.
right.
Not everybody has access to those plugins yet. I'm on the waiting list. I'm hoping that I will get access to that soon, but it will then allow you access to more current information. So
I like that.
if you will placate me for a little bit,
Yeah.
I
Tell me
wanted
what mine
to
is.
I wanted to see. Well, I put your name in it, and then I put the business name in it, and I think because the business is fairly new, that it didn't have really much to
Yeah,
go off of, and then sort of, I guess I roll my eyes at this. It's like, oh, the parameters of AI. It tells me that
yeah,
it won't write a bio for you or about you for me, and so I'm like, okay,
right.
fine.
Write a bio for her about her.
And so, but I did ask it about shipping aerospace parts. So I
Yeah,
wanted to see if you could, sort of fact check this for
yeah.
us. And so my
Most
idea
definitely.
is we have 5 of these listed here. I'm going to read them off one by one, and
Mhm.
you tell me how accurate they are or not. So, ChatGPT fact or faux. First one, shipping aerospace parts requires compliance with strict regulations and safety standards. The transportation of these parts involves many safety considerations, such as the proper packaging, handling, and documentation of hazardous materials.
That is definitely true.
Okay, so fact number one. All right. Number two, aerospace parts can be very large and heavy, so shipping them often requires special equipment and shipping methods. For example, some parts need to be shipped on flatbed trucks, while others may require specialized crating or pallets to prevent damage during transit.
That is absolutely true.
Ooh, two
Most
for
certainly,
two so far.
1000%.
Number three, the cost of shipping aerospace parts can be quite high due to the size, weight, and value of the items being transported. Shipping costs may also vary depending on the destination, transportation mode, and any additional customs or regulatory fees.
That is definitely true, especially depending on the insurance amount. If they want 250 versus a half a million, that's definitely a huge difference in rate
And
for
that's where
sure.
having expertise on the things that you're asking ChatGPT comes in handy because,
Right.
we're so far 3 for
They're good. They're
3,
doing good. They're
and
doing
you are offering also additional nuance to each of these statements. So I think that that's a major plus as well. Okay, number 4, shipping aerospace parts often involves coordination and collaboration between multiple parties, such as the manufacturer, the shipping company, and the receiving party. It is important to have clear communication and documentation to ensure that the parts are delivered on time and in good condition.
Yes, that's every product, any product you
Yeah, I was
use.
about to say that one's kind of a given. Just so,
Yeah,
all right, we'll give
any
it to
commodity, but we'll take it. We'll take it,
right.
ChatGPT. We'll
4
take
for
it.
4 so far.
Yeah,
Last one. Shipping aerospace parts internationally may require additional documentation and compliance with custom regulations. This can include obtaining proper export licenses and certifications, filling out customs forms, and paying import duties and taxes.
that is absolutely correct. And I tell people all the time, do not use a freight broker to import and export. Get a freight forwarder, because all the broker is doing is going to a freight forwarder to do it, and you can cut out the middleman. Don't kill me, anybody that I said that, but it's the truth. And I tell my customers all the time, I'm like, go directly to a freight forwarder. You can use that's why we're wanting to add freight forwarding services, because so many companies are importing parts now from outside of the US because they're specialty parts and you can't find them here, or they don't have enough of them. So it's definitely a lot of opportunity.
Another line of business coming for Scale Logistics in the
Yes.
future.
See, God's will. God's will.
All right. So yeah, ChatGPT passed flying colors on this one because it's been kind of hit or miss for Anne Rinke, for example. We have her episode. We're recording this in on April 11th. We have Anne Rinke's episode dropping on, gosh, what is it, like the 13th, I believe. But it got her bio 95% wrong. And I was like, you out of all people, I feel,
And
it's
she's
such.
very well known.
Yes, and it was I think there's another, maybe like a Anne Rinke who is like a yoga instructor, because I thought she was a yoga instructor. So
Like,
yeah, it is very important. Like, these technology tools are fantastic, but it does take that level of expertise to know, okay, well, that's BS, that's true. So in this case, no, it was all five of them were right, but it was also kind of standard answers. But then
right.
you're able to go in and add that additional
Pattern.
nuance, and that's where I think the real sort of, I guess, positive outcome of all these AI tools is really having that expertise and then using these tools in order
Yeah,
to, expedite the work that would typically take you hours to do.
most
All right.
certainly.
Well, Shay, with all that said, I feel like we covered a lot of ground in
We
this episode, and
did.
I could honestly talk to you for hours longer.
Mhm.
But for folks who want to stay up to date with your work, they maybe they're an aerospace manufacturer and they want to reach out and do business with you. Where can folks follow you, follow your work, follow Scale, all that good stuff?
Most certainly. If you are a customer, if you are a distributor, aerospace, MRO facility, I definitely would love to serve you at Scale Logistics on every social media site. Our website is shipwithscale.com. And I'm Shaylin Dixon. I'm on every social media site as well. Connect with me on LinkedIn. You'll probably get a response a lot quicker. And to all of you small business owners and solopreneurs, I just want to tell you, if I can do it, you can too. There's really nothing that's amazing or special about me that you don't have as well. Just don't be afraid. Show up for your business, share your expertise, and let people get to know you so they can give you an opportunity. So connect with me.
Absolutely, because you also offer, like mentorship and sponsorship as well. And so, did you want to maybe tell folks, real quick
Yeah.
about that different offering? I'm sorry, I forgot. I should have mentioned it
No,
earlier.
it's okay. I May 1st we'll be starting another cohort, the Freight Broker Club. So it's just, a group of freight brokers, community, helping people pivot during this time. A lot of people are having challenges, they need new strategies. So I'm just sharing that in a group setting. I also offer 30-minute strategy sessions. If you just want to run things by me, if you need help, if you are trying to do a plan, and if you're looking for content creation, I now have someone I can forward you to. I do not make content, but I can give you a strategy and help you implement it so that you can hire someone on Fiverr to do it for you. So if you need help with your small businesses or putting your business in a position to win, I definitely can assist you with that as well.
Love it. And I love to see people who are not only recommending services to other businesses, but are actively doing it themselves.
Mhm.
And so, from that, your own work in the trenches of what's working well and what's not. And so you can help a lot of other businesses and a lot of other solopreneurs out there that are just looking to cut through the noise and just cut to the chase, and you can help them get there based on your years of knowledge and expertise. So, Shay, I mean, we waited too long to do this for a second time. We're not
Right?
going to make that mistake again.
Yeah,
So maybe we can connect, in the fall, and talk about all the different fall conferences that are
I would
going
love
on.
it. I would love it for sure. Well, it was amazing talking to you again. I always appreciate our conversations.
Likewise, we'll probably be talking right after this call
Yep.
is done being recorded. But I unfortunately have a hard out at 2:30, which I gotta run towards another interview. But hopefully, no pressure to the next guest. But they
None.
will they got big shoes to fill.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Shay.